and welcome to Concert Pipeline. I'm Steve Jones. Today on the program, we have a repeat guest, someone I've interviewed before, actually about probably a year and a half ago with his brother, Vinny. This is Carmine Appice, and so I had a great chat with him. He's also had me on his program, Hangin' and Bangin' with Carmine and Vinny Appice, and they do a weekly YouTube show, which is a lot of fun. I had the opportunity to be on with a couple of other DJs, people in the music biz, and we had a really great chat. That was earlier this year, I want to say March. Yeah, so you can go back and check that out. It was a fun little hang, but he's had a lot of other great guests on his program, including Weird Al, Paul Schaefer, so many others, too many to name, Ted Nugent, a lot of other people in the industry. So recommend checking that out. But today he's here more so to talk about his project with Fernando Perdomo, called the Appice Perdomo Project, and they have a new album called Energy Overload that they put together, and it's a little different to make an album in COVID times, but they did it, and it's an instrumental album, so recommend checking it out. All right, before we get into the interview, we'll give an update on what's going on in my world. Pretty much it's all getting ready for duck hunting season, which is coming up this weekend. I'm really excited about it. Friday, I'll actually be sleeping in my car, which is a pastime I've grown used to over the past couple of years. I never thought, as I'm nearing 40, that I would be so comfortable sleeping in my car, but I do what I got to do to go out and chase some ducks. So I don't know. It's an interesting, fun hobby that it's hard to explain if you haven't partaken, just how exciting it is. I really enjoy it. I enjoy it for a lot of different reasons. One, not necessarily because I'm good at it, because I'm okay. I'm on the, I'm not very good. Let's just say, okay. I'm not a very good hunter, but I try. And I've learned over the past couple of seasons some of the areas where I struggle, and am working to improve upon those areas. So this is my 4th season duck hunting, and so I'm going to be hunting all weekend. I'm going to be exhausted, just exhausted, completely exhausted by the end of the weekend, but in a good way, because I'm doing what I enjoy, and and there's a lot of reasons, like I said, that I enjoy it. I really like going out and seeing the sunrise, and over the marsh. It's just incredible. I love harvesting my own food. There's a joy that comes to eating something that you have harvested yourself and know exactly where it came from, and how fresh it is. And you have a respect for the food that you eat in that sense, a respect that you don't get from, like, the Papa Murphy's pizza I ate tonight, which is sitting in my stomach, not doing great things. I'm having regrets over the Papa Murphy's pizza, I'll just be honest. Wish I didn't eat 3 big slices. It was too much, and feel like I'm going to be paying for that down the line a little bit. But I can't worry about that now. Duck hunting is just a few days away, right? So this weekend I'm going to be heading out with some friends, doing some duck hunting on a local refuge, and having a good time. Really, really looking forward to it. I'm not getting the busy start to this season that I would like. I'm gonna have to miss the whole next week after the first couple of days, which is tough because the weather is getting great, right? The rain is really a positive thing for duck hunting, and bringing the birds in, and I'm gonna have to miss some hunts because work, and because of my son's birthday and Halloween coming up, things that are not able to be moved, and I have to adapt to. So that's unfortunate, but there will be other hunts And while I'm on the conversation of rain, that kind of leads me to how I need to prepare for duck hunting in the rain. It's hard enough for someone with glasses to duck hunt because I'm wearing a full camo mask that covers my nose and fogs up my glasses ultimately. So I have to keep adjusting it and moving it down a little bit. Also cutting a bigger hole in my mouth area, just getting some circulation going already as it is. But with the rain, it is a lot tougher because obviously I don't have windshield wipers on my glasses or anything along those lines. So I would have a very difficult time seeing through the rain that's on my glasses. So that takes me to contacts, which I have gotten specifically for duck hunting. I'm not great at putting the contacts in. I still haven't become great at it yet, and I dread doing it. But I tried a couple weeks back and wasn't able to put them in at all. I tried for a good bit until I just had to give up. I tried again yesterday, and I was actually able to get my contacts in, and I kept them in all day. And then at night, I took them out. But before then, like I got a bit of a headache from having the contacts in all day. I don't know what exactly caused it. Also, it was harder to get one out than the other. The first one came out pretty easy, but the second one, for a little bit, I wasn't even sure if it was still in my eye because I was rubbing my eye raw and wasn't able to get it out originally. But I got it out. We're okay. I'm gonna really try again over one of the next couple of days before I go out, and then I'm just ultimately going to sleep with them in my eyes Friday night probably, because I can't put them on in my car that I'm going to be sleeping in while I'm out hunting. So that's my cross to bear. I didn't prepare for it enough over the off season because I just wasn't interested in putting them in. I should have prepared more, absolutely, but I didn't. So it is what it is. But let me just say as well, I freaking love the rain. I'm so glad we're getting rain here in the Bay Area. We need it more than anything. And I hear that all these places, around the country that are getting weather and getting rain and having storms, and and I want them all to be safe. But I've been envious of the weather and the rain that they've had, and wasn't sure that we were going to get any at all this season. A lot of the refuges are dry because of the lack of rain that we've had, the lack of water on the refuges. But I'm going to be going to one where I'm told there will be a good amount of water. So that's a positive thing because you need the water to bring the ducks into your pond. So going to go out, hang in the rain for Friday with a bunch of friends, and sleep in my car, and then get out and shoot some ducks. Bring them home hopefully on Saturday, and then go out early Sunday morning and do it all again. My weekend will be filled with duck hunting, which means that the podcast and program might be slowing down a little bit over the coming weeks. So if there's an off week or two here or there where we don't have a program, don't worry. We're going to keep making shows and keep bringing on bands as we can, and bringing music to the Concert Pipeline audience. So nothing to worry about there. I can't think of anything else to share besides duck hunting. That's just what's on my mind right now, and I'm super excited about it. So that's all I got for the opener. But I think we should bring Carmine in because I had another really great chat with him, and we're going to bring him in right now. Here's Carmine Appice. Carmine, how you doing?
I'm good, dude. How you doing?
Hey, doing really well. Thanks for taking the time. Good to chat with you again. And
No
thanks
problem. I recognize your name because you're the Sex Pistols.
I'm the Sex Pistols guy, right? Hey, we had some fun on your YouTube show. So, and I've seen, you've been keeping it going. You've been interviewing a lot of really cool people. I wanted to.
Yeah, I know. We're trying to get it built up, and it's crazy. I did an interview with this 10-year-old kid yesterday, and it's called The Jam Man. There's 125,000 subscribers.
Really? I mean, there's some there's some child prodigies out there. Have you heard of Nandy Bushell?
No.
Like she's 11 years old now, but she challenged Dave Grohl to a drum off. She's a little
Oh,
11
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
11-year goal, and they did this virtual drum off, sort of thing during COVID, and he ended up writing a song about her. And just a
Huh.
couple weeks back, he brought her out to play
Oh, I saw
on
that. I saw
yeah
that. Yeah.
at their show at the Forum, and
Yeah,
I mean
exactly. Yeah.
she's
That's pretty
amazing.
cool. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's good that he's got the ability to and the power to play the forum,
Oh yeah,
and do that stuff, Because
yeah,
well, that's because he's not doing that band as a drummer. He's doing it as a lead singer, guitar player. As Buddy
yep.
Rich said, if it was the drummer, he'd be playing a 500-seat place.
Right. Well, I saw him actually about a month ago. He was here in Napa doing the Bottle Rock Festival, and he did a lot of cool things. Of course, Foo Fighters played, but he played with he came out and jammed with Guns N' Roses
Right.
on Paradise City, and then
Well,
as a
was it a festival?
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good guy doing all that kind of stuff, but he's playing in that the upper echelons of the rock business right now.
Right.
Where can do that easy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He just put
he's a good guy.
yeah. He just put out a memoir, so that kind of leads me to my first question for you. I mean, you have so many stories, and obviously we've talked through
Yeah.
a little bit of them in the past. But like, have you ever put out a book or thought about putting out a
My book?
memoir? Yeah.
I got a book. I released it 2016. It's called "Stick It: My Life of Sex, Drums, and Rock and Roll."
Oh, right. Okay, we did talk about that before.
Yeah,
Yes.
so that's but I'm working on the next one. I'm supposed to be doing it with a guy that just is completing a Led Zeppelin book who got a big giant advance. He did a Beatle book that sold 1 million units. And he said he wanted to do this with me, even though I haven't been able to get a hold of him for the last month or so. I want to do Guitar Zeus, the book.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
that'd be
and just
that'd be
talk
really
about
cool.
all my experiences with all the different guitar players I played with in my life, which was a lot of them when I started listing them,
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's going to happen with him. Hopefully it will, because he's got a big connection with the book companies now. And he said, "No, don't worry, I'll get the book deal and everything." I said, "All right, I'm ready. I'm ready to do that." But he was finishing this Led Zeppelin book. That's how I met him. He called me to be in his Led Zeppelin book, and then he asked me if I knew how to get a hold of Jeff Beck, and I hooked him up with the Jeff Beck camp, and then he said, I told him about my idea. He said, "Oh, I love that idea. Let me finish this Zeppelin book, and then we'll get right on to that." I said, "Okay." So I've been waiting for him.
Yeah. Well, what was the process like for you with pulling together your first book? Like, how do you kind of
Well,
slim down when you have so much experience, right? Like, I mean, you've been doing
well,
this forever.
what I did was in the 80s, I had the idea to start doing this, and I had a different title. The title was going to be The International Rock Guide to Hotel Wrecking, because that's
Yeah.
what we used to do all the time. And I told stories on 12 different cassettes and gave it to my manager to transcribe it. Unfortunately, he lost four of the tapes, but out of the 8 tapes that I sent him, he got 112 pages of stories of manuscript. So I've had that in my possession since like the late 80s, and every once in a while I'd say, "Well, I'm going to try and get my book deal." I hook up with somebody and try and do a book deal, but not until I hooked up with this manager that hooked up my Guitar Zeus albums, got me a deal on VH1 books. And Nikki Sixx had his Heroin Diaries on that. So when they hooked me up, they asked me if I would like any of their writers, and the writer of Nikki Sixx's book was interested in doing my book. So they hooked me up with him, and I started doing it. By the time we finished writing it, VH1 was going out of business in the book business. So we had the book done. I had the writer. They paid me my advance, which was great, which was a good size advance. But then I was stuck with no book deal. So I said, well, the writer said, well, I know a company named Chicago Review Press that might want to take it. So we got a hold of them. They were a smaller company. They wanted to take it, and they gave me a bit of an advance also. So altogether, I got a decent sized advance, and then he did a deal in England with another company, Music Sales. They did a terrible job in the book over there.
Yeah.
But the book over here, we recouped and we actually get royalties. But and I ended up doing maybe about 10,000 books, which was okay, but I didn't make it on. I wanted to make it to the New York Times bestseller list. It didn't do that, because this was a long time in the making. And I was a bit disappointed in the end result, not in the end result of the book itself, but the end result of the
The outcome.
the deal, the outcome. Even though a lot of people have bought the book, love it, and I sell it at all my gigs, and it's called Stick in My Life of Sex, Drums, and Rock and Roll. And there's some crazy, wild sex stories in that book, in which I told the writer, I said, you think we should put these in there? He said, definitely. He says, all the middle-aged women love that stuff.
Yeah.
He said, all the sex stuff we had in Nikki Sixx's book, the women love that stuff. So anytime like a woman goes to buy it when we're at this merch table, I said, look, this is X-rated. And then they go, whoa, great.
Yeah.
And there's some wild stories in there, but there's also some great stories and historical stories and, my life stories. I mean, there's a lot of stories that were left out. I mean, I could do a part 2, but I think if I do the Guitar Zooster book, it'll fill in some of those stories.
Yeah. What was one of the stories that didn't make the cut that you're like, I wish this would have gotten in the book?
God, I'd have to review it that I don't remember.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Digging.
just like, I don't know, just, I'd have to go through my book and really remember and go through the manuscript again. At this point, I don't remember which stories were left out, or he cut them short, like Blue Murder was cut short. The Guitar Zeus, making Guitar Zeus was cut short, that kind of stuff was cut short.
Yeah. So let's talk about the new album a little bit, right? I mean, so I know you've been working on this for a while, and you've been partnering with Fernando Perdomo, right? So
yes.
And his guitar on the album, I mean, incredible. You talk about a lot of great guitarists that you work with.
He's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of Satriani. I mean, it just has that, that powerful feel, and it's just like smooth. So, I really dig
Very
it.
smooth. And not only guitar, he played the bass and the keyboard.
Yeah, it's just you two,
and
right?
he engineered it, it's just us two. And, it's just wild how it started. And when it started was perfect timing, because I just moved to Florida and my brother built my recording system for me. Vinny is a computer geek.
Yeah.
He's had a studio in his house for years. So I told him I wanted to put a studio, and what does he think? He said, well, I'll build you a really like Frankenstein computer, the actual computer, and I'll get everything and I'll hook it up in my house and I'll get it running as a studio, and then I'll ship it to you. I said, okay. And then and we'll use a PC and Cubase, because that's what I use. And, if you have any problems, you can call me and I could, over FaceTime or, Skype or whatever we use, WhatsApp,
Yeah.
I can, and TeamViewer, I can go into computer on the phone and we could, I could show you how to work it. So that's what we did. So I ended up doing a couple of sessions, like for Cleopatra. I did one with Arthur Brown, redoing his big hit Fire, with me and Brian Auger playing on it. And that was pretty cool. And I did my own drum sound, Once I got the system, I started screwing around. I'm endorsed by Audix mics. I had all my Audix mics. I put them up. I set them up the way I normally set them in the studio. And, Vinny already made me a template. So I just hooked them up and, with Vinny's help, and I started getting the drum sound, And so I did a couple of tracks for Cleopatra, like a tribute thing for a Pink Floyd record. and this and that. I started learning how to do it. So then when I got the call from Fernando, and the way I got the call was through Tom Dowd, the great producer Tom Dowd, his family, his wife and his daughter called me and said, Tom was working with this kid. Well, he was a kid to me, he's 40 years old,
Yeah.
and that he wanted to work with me on a couple of tracks, was he was going to do a solo album and want me to play on a couple of tracks. And can he call me? I said, sure. I thought to myself, well, if I do a couple of tracks, it'll be, I'll learn more about how to run my studio. So he called me and he told me what he's been doing. And he's in that Netflix documentary, Echo of the Canyons.
Okay.
Which is all about Laurel Canyon in the 60s with, Crosby, Stills and Nash and Frank Zappa and, everybody that lived in the canyon. And they did a big concert in LA and they did an album tribute to it. And he played on the album with, Eric Clapton and David Crosby and all these other guys. And they're all in the movie and Fernando's in the movie, quite a bit. So
Yeah.
that was like his claim to fame at the time. So I didn't even look at it until lately anyway, but I took the fact that Tom Dowd wanted to work with me, he must be pretty good. So we started off by saying, okay, well, why don't we try this? I have some songs on my iPad that are instrumental, and why don't I send you one and you send it back to me with your parts on it and I'll put drums to it, we'll see how it goes. And I'm thinking to myself, if this works out, I could, keep working with this kid and learn how to work my studio better.
Yeah.
So I sent him the first track, which was Thunder. And I had my Slingerland drums up at the time. I put the drums on. And when he sent it back to me, and I put the drums on, I said, wow, this sounds really good. And then he said, I got a guy that could mix this. He lives in Florida, near you. Okay, let's give it to him. So he mixed it and it sounded great. I said, wow. I said, you want to do another one? He goes, yeah, let's do another one. So I sent him another track called the Jackson Groove or whatever it's called on the album. Mm-hmm. And he sent it back to me and I put the drums on that and we sent it to the guy and mixed it and it sounded great. So he said, well, I got one to send you. I said, okay, send it to me. So he sent me the track called Little Havana, right? And it's sort of like, he's Cuban. His family's Cuban. They're from Cuba. He's born in Miami, a Cuban Miami guy, lives in LA now. So he sent me this one. He called it Little Havana and had a bit of a Latin overtone. So I played it heavy rock, with a little bit of my Latin experience in there. And then when it ended, I said, well, I'm going to add another part to this. I did this fast shuffle, like Parchment Farm, Half a Teacher, or Living Alone, like from BBA, Boogie kind of thing with accents. And I said, look, I added something to it, a drum part. Why don't you put some guitar and bass to that and see what happens? So he did, and it was great.
Yeah.
So we kept it, and we called it Little Havana was the Latin part, and Big Havana was the rock part, right?
Yeah.
So then that clued in my head, he can play stuff to drum parts and make them sound really interesting. So we kept recording. And then I said, I got some drum tracks that might be really cool. So why don't I send you 2 or 3 of those? So I sent him 2 or 3 of those. And he came up with Rocket to the Sun, came up with Flower Child. And one of my favorites was the Pure Ecstasy. It's funky as hell.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
And so kept recording. Now I'm really learning. Now I got my D drum set up, and then I got my 2 old Cactus bass drums in there, and they sound fantastic. So I did some of the tracks with that, and then I switched to the D drums, and then I switched to the D drums with the Cactus bass drums, and then I kept an old the Slingerland snare on there. When I got an array of snare drums I could use. And I started coming up with really cool drum sounds, and then we did the Vanilla Fudge Stop in the Name of Love.
You did, yeah.
Setup with the old bass drums and the sling with that setup, and it sounds great, And then I got my friend Pat Regan to mix that, And then I did some sessions with this woman I'm producing, and Lisa G. And I did 2 songs with her, and I got Pat to mix it. And the drum sounds are happening, you know. And Pat's loving the drum sounds I'm getting there. So, you know, so we ended up doing 18 songs with me and Fernando. And we picked 12 of them. And I said, you know what? I'm going to talk to Cleopatra about releasing this, you know, because this is some really good stuff. I said, normally, instrumental albums, even Santriani, are more jazz rock and rock jazz, you know. And with the big drum sound I get and the rock sounds he's getting on guitar, it's more like a progressive rock instrumental album than a jazz album, you know.
Yeah.
So it kind of a little different than all the instrumental albums that come out, and there hasn't been a lot of instrumentals coming out lately, you know.
Did you envision this as an instrumental from the beginning, or did you toy with, maybe we should get some? Yeah,
because, you know, it's like I was doing Cactus, I was doing Vanilla Fudge, I'm doing the King Cobra record, and they were all singing, you know. I said, no, the first thing I sent them was an instrumental. The second thing I sent them was an instrumental that I had on my iPad that I wrote on, you know, GarageBand. I played everything on, you know, on iPad. And then when it came back, when him playing it, it sounded really cool because sometimes he sounds like Jeff Beck. As a matter of fact, you know, on my Hanging the Banging show, we had Susie Quattro. Right? I know Susie from back in the days when I was with Beck and Rod and all that from England. And after the show, she started emailing me, and we're talking, and she said, would you want to play maybe on my album, play a couple of tracks? I said, yeah, I'd love to do that. That'd be fun. And then she said, well, send me something new so I could hear what you sound like today. So I sent her this thing, Flower Child, right? So she emails me back and she goes, I love this track. She goes, is that who I think it is on guitar? Because it sounds like Jeff Beck. I said, no, it's not. I said, it's not. Hold on, Paul Shortino's calling me. Let me tell him I'll call him back.
Sure.
Paul, I'm doing a Zoom interview, and I'll call you back. I'll call you back about 2:30. Okay, I'll talk to you in a minute. Bye. And this is how we're doing the King Cobra album too. Like, send me stuff, I play drums. Send them stuff, they put the guitars. You know, it's crazy. Anyway, so I said, no, it's not. I said, who do you think it is? She goes, Jeff Beck. I said, no, it's not Jeff. She goes, I'm trying to get Jeff to play on my new album. I said, well, good luck. Hopefully you can get him. But this my partner in my new album called you know, Fernando Perdomo. He's a monster. He's a great player. He sounds like Jeff a lot. He sounds like a great rock guitarist. He sounds great. She goes, wow. She goes, do you mind if I write lyrics and melody to this? I hear lyrics and melody to this. I said, feel free, you know. So as far as I know, she's writing lyrics and melody to that track. And we just finished the second video for the song, for the album. And we're starting to talk to Cleopatra about a release date for that. And, you know, you always got to get a partner to release a video, you know, like a Guitar Player magazine or something. You know,
so
Drummer magazine, something, you know.
So it gets out there, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we're working on that now, but I'm getting great response on all the interviews I'm doing. People and guys like yourself, you know, are loving this album. I said, you know, one guy said, I've been listening to it all day and I'm doing my chores, and it's a great record to drive to. It's a great record to do your stuff with. And
exactly.
He says, I found myself humming the melodies, even though there's no lyrics. I said, well, that's great. And that's what we try to do, is create instrumental songs that have melodies and hooks that will stick in your head.
Yeah, totally one of those albums you can listen to over and over for sure. So good work there. So with you mentioned Vanilla Fudge and doing Stop in the Name of Love. Tell me a little bit about how that came about.
Well, that was, we started it in 2019. It was going to be an album called Supreme Fudge, right? And we were going to do 5 Supreme songs, a couple of other R&B songs, and then maybe 2 or 3 originals. So we started it. Now, Tim Bogert hasn't been in the band for a long time, and he had gotten sick with cancer. And in 2019, I knew he was sick with cancer. And so we started recording in 2019. So the first song we did in December of 2019 was Stop in the Name of Love. And then I said, well, look, the holidays are here, and then we go to the NAMM show. So why don't I, when I go to the NAMM show, why don't I try and put Tim on the track? At least, you know, we can get Tim on 1 or 2 tracks on this album. Tim agreed to it. So everybody said, fine. So I went to the NAMM show in January of 2020. We went to Jorgen Carlson, who plays bass with Government Mule, went to his little studio, which me and Tim worked there before because we're releasing a live BBA from 1974 that's never been out. And Tim had to fix some vocals in probably 2018. We did that, you know, and before he knew he was sick. And so we went back there and we said, let's put Tim on the bass. And now he's got stage 4 cancer in his brain. And it was really sad. But as soon as he plugged in and started playing, it locked right in what I was doing on the drums and the band. But then Jorgen pointed out the drums needed to be redone because there was leakage of organ and guitar all over it. So I said, okay, well, I'll go back into the studio in New Jersey and I'll put the drums on again. And then COVID hit. So that was the end of that idea. You know, so nothing happened, not with the song, just sat there. And the manager said, well, you guys going to be able to do an album with this COVID? I said, I don't think we can do an album until this is over. You know, I said, we have the one song with Tim on it and the drums need to be fixed. If I can fix the drums, he said, well, maybe I could turn it into a single deal. I said, all right. So he tried, he said he can do that. And then I had moved to Florida and then Vinny sent me the studio and blah, blah, blah. And once I got the drum sound, I was confident with the drum sound and my own engineering. I attempted to play on that track and I got a really good drum track, you know? Yeah. And then I sent it to Pat Regan to mix and he mixed it and it sounded awesome. And then by the time it was mixed and everything was done, it was 2021, you know? And now it was a singles deal. And I'm the only one in the Vanilla Fudge that has somewhat of a studio to work in, you know? So even though like I have 3 arrangements of Supreme songs on my iPad that I did without the band, and Mark Stein has some ideas and Vinny had ideas. So we never got in to do that. And I don't know if we're gonna get in to do it at all because this COVID keeps going.
Yeah, it's not giving up. But you're touring with Vanilla Fudge too. You have a planned tour, yes. Right?
We have 9 shows coming up in October, end of October, November. And I actually have 3 shows with Cactus as well. And that Cactus album came out in April and it came out very quietly. And I think it's one of the best Cactus albums we ever did. You know, so yeah. We're still gonna release a video of Papa's Like a Rolling Stone from that record. But as far as dates go, we're gonna probably do maybe some more dates in 2022. You know.
Yeah. How have the live shows that you've been doing? I know you did Drum Wars with Vinny and
that's all I did.
That's all you've done so far? Yeah.
I did 3 shows this year with Vinny. And the first show was a cutting room in about 3 weeks ago. The last show I did, February 9th, 2020, was the cutting room with Vinny.
Yeah. So right back
where the first.
Yeah.
You know, but it was a big difference. The last one we did, the place was packed. You know.
Yeah.
The first show we did, you had to have the validation that you had the shot, and you had to have a test, or you couldn't get in.
Yeah.
You know? So, and there's still a lot of people not going out because they're afraid to. So we had maybe 40% of the 100%.
Right. Yeah. What does it feel like for you to be playing the shows again, playing on a stage, even if it's...
Well, I got to admit, the first night, playing with the band was okay. When I did my solo, I thought I sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Second night, which was a few days later, because we did Sunday, we were going to do Wednesday in another place, Friday and Saturday. The Wednesday fell out due to COVID, you know, and So we had 4 days off, and then we played Friday, and that was better. And Saturday we played a proper, really cool venue in Buffalo, New York, and then I was back to my stride again. And
Yeah.
then my brother came out and introduced me. He's like, "Carmine Appice on drums." He goes, "What about that drum solo? Who do you know at 75 plays like that?" You know, the whole place started cheering, and I felt a lot better about that solo even before he did that. You know, so I know if I would have kept going, it would have got better and better. So now we got 9 shows and 3 with Cactus. So I assume by November 17th, the last Fudge show, and you know, we had done all those shows, I'd be well into my stride again. You
Yeah,
know?
whistle be greased.
Yeah, but it you know, it's just a matter of getting, it's mental too, you know, and you're getting in there and starting to play, but it's like riding a bike normally with the songs. Like I said to myself today, I'm going to start listening to the set list of the songs of Vanilla Fudge. So when we go into the day's rehearsal, I actually know the songs.
It's good to have that. Yeah, because I know, I mean, obviously it's got to be a lot of dusting off the cobwebs, you know, to go back and relearn. I mean, especially with multiple bands, you know, the career spanning as long as yours has, right? Like you just have to reteach yourself it a bit.
Yeah, and same with Cactus. We're playing the first show on the 5th of November. My last show is on the 31st with Fudge. So I was going to be in New York the 1st and the 2nd, then the 3rd I go in the morning to Chicago, and at night we all get there. At night from 5 to like 9, we're going to rehearse at the venue, right? And then 9 a.m. to 12 a.m. To 12 p.m. the next morning, another rehearsal. And then that night off, and we'll probably go over stuff in the hotel. And then on the 5th, we do the first gig.
Yeah.
You know? And we have some new members in there because a couple of the guys, the singer didn't want to go out with COVID, you know, and a harmonica player couldn't make it because his wife had a surgery. She had to be with her. So we have a new singer filling in and a new harmonica player. I didn't want to blow the dates out, you know, because you know, people are advertising and everything, and so it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. How would you describe your relationship with your brother from a sense of the drum? I mean, you both grew up with drums, but like, I mean, would you say you're mentors for each other? And kind
I
of
was his mentor.
Yeah.
I'm 11 years older, and you know, when he started playing, he was like 8 years old. So I was already, you know, well, no, he was older. He was 10 years old because I was already in Vanilla Fudge on the Ed Sullivan Show and on all the TV shows and playing Madison Square Garden and playing all these big shows. And, you know, my mother used to come with my father and bring him, you know, and my sister usually, you know. And so by the time, you know, I used to go home and I left the drum set home, he was like 10. And I realized he was a good player. And then I took him to like symposiums for Ludwig, which was like a week-long drum camp, you know. So I took him to all these things, you know, and got him going. I realized his talent when he was like 10. We sent him to my teacher. By the time he was 12 or 13, he was great, you know.
Didn't take long.
He had to read, and he had the talent. And I when I first heard him play and we wrote a song on the album called Brothers and Drums on our album. And in it was the lyric that my mother said to me. She said, I said, where did he learn to do this? She goes, he goes in there every day and practices. He's driving me crazy like you did, you know? And we put that into the song, you know?
Yeah.
And we put in the whole thing, how I started, and then Vinny grew up watching me play, and now we're brothers in drums, you know? That was the hook, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But you know, so I was his mentor, and then he got into Buddy Rich and Billy Cobham and Ma Vista Orchestra and my playing and you know, a bunch of that stuff. And then when he was 16, he played with John Lennon.
Yeah.
You know, and then he quit school and he went on the road with Rick Derringer, opening up for Aerosmith in stadiums, you know. And then by the time he was 1980, he was like what was he? I don't even know how old he was then. You know, maybe 19. I brought him out to LA as well, and stayed in my apartment with me, got him hooked in with some stuff out there with Andy Johns, did his Axis record with Danny Johnson, so I mean, I've been heavily involved in the beginnings of his career, except for the John Lennon connection and the Rick Derringer connection. Matter of fact, when Rick called my house, he said to my mother, he said, "Hi, Mrs. Appice, is Vinny there?" She goes, "Who's this?" He goes, "Rick Derringer." She goes, "Oh, no, you don't mean Vinny, you want Carmine." And he goes, "No, I want to talk to Vinny." And she says, "No, you're mistaken, it's Carmine." So he says, "Look, I know Carmine, it's not Carmine I want to talk to. I want to talk to Vinny about playing with me in my new band." And she just couldn't believe that Rick Derringer was calling, because she knew all the names for me,
Yeah.
And she already made lasagna and food for Jeff Beck and Rick Derringer now, So, and then she made lasagna for John Lennon. He never said thank you, and Vinny gave it to John Lennon. And when we saw John Lennon at a Rod Stewart show, party later, my mother said, I made lasagna for John. I never knew if he liked it or not. So we went over and asked him. I said, "Hey, John, it's my mother, Vinny's mother, blah, blah, blah." So she goes, "Did you like it?" He goes, "Oh, I loved it." So my mother says, "Could I have my pan back?"
Yeah.
Classic story.
Probably didn't get it back, I'm guessing, but
He didn't get it back. And I think he was with May Pang at the time. And I'm actually friends with May Pang. So one day I'm going to talk to her and ask her about the pan.
Gotta get that pan back. Still
that'd be funny.
Oh, that's awesome. And so tell me about playing the Ed Sullivan Show. Like, I mean, that's like a pinnacle, right?
Oh, that was amazing, because number one, Vanilla Fudge on that show was so animated. No other band that I could remember, because I used to watch the Ed Sullivan Show all the time. I saw the Beatles, I saw the Stones, I saw Herman's Hermits, I saw the Rascals. The Rascals were maybe the closest to us, but we were wild on that show. Mark Stein with his hands sweat, and Timmy looked like a spastic maniac, and I would look like a total drum monster on there, killing the drums. Vinny was moving around, and the next day we sold 250,000 singles. Seriously, right?
It's I mean, because that one thing it's different now. Obviously, there's a million channels, and nothing's going to hit those numbers like everybody watches.
There's no numbers anymore. You do 250,000 streams, you make 10 cents.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Like, great. Okay.
But there was 50 million people watched that show.
Yeah.
So that there was 50 million people watched that show, and I remember we went down in the elevator, and these stories are in my book, the lasagna story, this story, in more detail. We rehearsed all week, and then finally, here it comes, I said, in those days, elevator operator, not push button. And it was a black dude, and I said, "Hey, man, how many people watch this show?" He goes, "Oh, about 50 million. And my stomach went like, ew, like total butterflies.
Can't process that, right?
Yeah, total butterflies in my stomach while I was on the elevator. I got out of the elevator, walked to the set, to the drums, being ready to go on. Once I hit the drums, we started playing, it went away. But the whole time walking, my stomach was like in butterflies. 50 million people were going to watch it. But we were lucky too, because we worked it out so our tour manager, who was also a sound engineer, was allowed to be in the sound booth. He wasn't allowed to touch the booth because it was union, to touch the faders, because it was union. But he was able to tell the guy, "Bring the drums up here, guitar here, vocals here,"
Yeah.
And we sounded amazing. I mean, you could see it on YouTube. When you run the YouTube through a sound system, it kicks butt, And then we were on it again. Second time we did Shotgun, where I had the big maple drums there, the same kit that I got John Bonham, and that's the kid. When he saw that kit, he said, "I want a kit like that." Nobody knew him. It's hard to believe he was totally unknown, as was Robert Plant and John Paul Jones. The only one that was somewhat known was Jimmy Page from the Yardbirds. Nobody
Yeah.
knew those guys, it was like done, so that's the drum set. And then the end of Shotgun was like the end of rock and roll, but it was
Right.
done 5 years before. Matter of fact, when I took Tommy Lee on the road, when I was with Ozzy, Tommy and Motley Crue opened up for us, and Tommy was doing the cymbal spin, grabbing the cymbal with his arm, and I said, "Hey, dude, where'd you get that?" He said, "I got it from John Bonham." I said,
John
"Well,
Bonham?
indirectly, you got it from me." He
Yeah.
said, "No, dude, I got it from Bonzo." I said, "When we're done with this tour, come to my house. I want to show you some videos." So I took him to the house. He came over. I showed him the Ed Sullivan Show. He said, "Dude, what year was this?" I said, "This was about a year before Led Zeppelin even came out." He said, "Dude, I can't believe you're doing that." I said, "I told you." I said, "Hey, let me show you something else." I showed him the end of rock and roll on Shotgun. He said, "When was this done?" I said, "This was about 5 years before rock and roll." And he was like blown away. Then he became a fan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we became good friends at the time.
Yeah.
Nicky
Well, I
Six
know
lived around the corner. We used to go to breakfast and stuff.
that's awesome. And I know you just have a couple minutes left, so I'll
Yeah.
end with tell me a little bit about the Rod experience.
The group.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I saw all these tribute bands coming out, and I said, I want to see. I found this guy. I was at a convention. This guy comes up to me. I thought it was Rod from a distance. And he walked up to me. He was shorter, and he introduced himself, and it's Fernando. "I'm doing an interview. I'll call you back." "Well, I'll see you in 5 minutes." Okay. Bye. Goodbye. So I said, "Wow, this guy looks just like Rod." And he said, "Look, I do this Rod thing. If you ever want to do it, let me know." So I took his number. And I said, "I'm going to try that." So I called Phil Chen. Phil did it. Jimmy Crespo to play with Rod, him, and Danny Johnson to play with Rod. I said, "I'm going to put this group together with guys that played with Rod, not just anybody." And then I got Alan St. James to play with Billy Squier on keyboard. And we did a few gigs. We went to Macau, China. We did a few other gigs. And then Phil said, "I don't want to play with a guy that looks like Rod in the tribute. I don't want to do that." So I got Kenny Aronson to play. And then Jimmy Crespo got sick, was something with his hands. So I got Paul Warren, who played with Rod for 14 years. Now Paul's in Cactus also, but Paul was with Rod 14 years. So we got him in it. So the band now is Kenny Aronson, Paul Warren, Danny Johnson, me, and maybe Alan. I don't know where Alan is these days. We haven't done a gig in a while. But next year we're planning to do a bunch of gigs, and I want to do it with Michael DeRocha from Heart. He's got a tribute with Roger Fisher, who was in Heart, called Heart to Heart.
Oh yeah.
It's
Yeah.
the same concept.
Yeah.
Concept. So we got the Rod experience and Heart to Heart as a package for a tribute to Rod and Heart in one show.
Yeah. Well, that's
what we're working on for next year.
That sounds incredible. And I'll ask you one 30-second question and let you go,
Yeah.
because I'm so enamored by the Fillmore in San Francisco. It's my favorite venue ever. But I know you first went there in like '67. Favorite memory of the Fillmore?
Easy memory. Anytime you drank the punch back there, they used to have punch. You never knew what was in it.
Yeah.
And one time we played there New Year's Eve, '68 into '69, and Mark Stein drank the punch, and there was acid in it. Okay, and with the acid in it, he was freaked out on the stage. We did Season of the Witch, and in the middle of it, there's this thing with Shadow Morton saying "God," all this screaming up to God, and Mark did that, and it was like freaky,
Yeah.
and he was out of it, but
Yeah.
not on purpose. He didn't want to be out of it.
No, he didn't know.
Drank the punch. So from then on, you never drank
Don't drink the
punch or anything that was public backstage at any gig in San Francisco.
You stay away from it, right? So
Yep.
yeah.
That included Winterland, the Avalon Ballroom, the Fillmore, all that stuff.
Yeah. No. Well, Carmine, I want to thank you for taking the time again. Congrats on the new album and all
Thank you, man.
going
Yeah,
on.
keep punching it, give it a good review, tell people how much you love it.
Will do. Absolutely.
Okay, man.
Yeah.
Thank
You
you,
have a great
brother.
rest of your day. Okay.
You too, man. Ciao.
That was the interview with Carmine Appice here in Concert Pipeline. And that takes us to the final segment on the program, the music news. All right. I actually have a handful of stories that are going on in the music world. So I'm going to go through these, share what's going on in the music world, and add a little commentary along the way. The first is one that is a little bit personal to me, even though I don't like to admit it, but I'll admit it on the program, that it's personal, and that has to do with Steve Harwell from Smashmouth. So Smashmouth was one of my first favorite bands. I used to have really crappy taste in music as I started out as a kid, and luckily a couple of friends, including my best buddy Joe Wilson, got me out of that funk and helped me expand my horizons into better music, which has led me to here we are today, listening and talking to so many great artists from around the world. So I owe a lot of that to Joe Wilson, among others, that to help me develop my palette. But I'll admit that Smash Mouth was my first concert. Oh my gosh, I just said it. And so there's a personal nature to it, and I got to interview Steve Harwell in the one of the recent iterations of Smash Mouth a handful of years back, and I told him that they were one of my first favorite bands, and he said I'm sorry, which I thought was really actually hilarious that he finds the comedy in their band. So this isn't as funny of a story. Steve Harwell announced his departure from the band after 27 years, and it's not a smooth departure either. He announced his retirement following a strange performance at the Big Sip Festival in Bethel, New York last Saturday that went viral in a subsequent TikTok video. As of today, Steve will be retiring from Smash Mouth to focus on his physical and mental health, a publicist for the band told SF Gate. Steve has been dealing with long-term medical issues over the last 8 years, and during his last performance, he suffered numerous symptoms directly linked with his current medical situation. The video, taken by a patron of the festival, shows Harwell slurring his speech and forgetting lyrics during the band's performance, dropping a beer can into the crowd, raising two middle fingers into the air, and at one point displaying what appears to be a Nazi salute. I'll fucking kill your whole family, I swear to God, Harwell appears to yell at one member of the audience later in the set. The show appears to also experience a variety of technical difficulties, including audio feedback. A statement from Harwell's team explained he was leaving the band due to nonstop serious medical setbacks, including heart failure, as well as acute Wernicke's encephalopathy. I don't know how to pronounce that word, I'm sorry. A condition that has greatly impacted his motor functions, including speech and impaired memory. Once again, attributing his behavior on stage to the diagnosis. He's also struggled with several types of addiction over the years. So they've been around since 1994. Obviously, he had a lot of fame ever since. He says, to my bandmates, it's been an honor performing with you all these years, and I can't think of anyone else I would have rather gone through this wild journey with. To our loyal, amazing fans, thank you. All of this was possible because of you. I've tried so hard to power through my physical and mental health issues and to play in front of you one last time, but I just wasn't able to. I'm so grateful to each and every one of you who has helped Smash Mouth sell over 10 million albums worldwide, put us on the top of radio charts, and those who have kept All Star relevant as one of the top memes on the internet today. I love that he loves that. I cannot wait to see what Smash Mouth accomplishes next, and I'm looking forward to counting myself as one of the band's newest fans. Smash Mouth's next concert in the Bay Area will be at the Alameda County Fairgrounds on October 27th. Wow. They're going to go on without him and have another lead singer is what they've said. They're going to be looking for another lead singer. Should I throw my name in the hat as someone who knows most of their songs, at least up to a certain point? I don't think anyone can fill Steve's shoes. So yeah, pretty sad. I feel for Steve, and my heart goes out to him and his family. You know, whatever people's thoughts on the band are, not a good way to go out for sure. So it's a story on Steve Harwell. This was an interesting story. This is a Bay Area story that I found pretty depressing yet entertaining. We're starting out with a couple of depressing stories. I'm sorry, this is just how it's going. So Bay Area alternative station Live 105 changed to Alt 105.3, went really even more corporate back in 2018. And this past weekend, they switched over to Dave 105.3, which is totally random radio, just playing whatever the fuck they want, I think is their motto. So after flipping on Friday afternoon to Variety Hits 105.3 Dave FM, the former format returned to KITS San Francisco, I think the following morning. And it didn't take long. Technical issues took the Dave FM format off for about 12 hours starting on Saturday evening. The issues began taking place around 8:40 p.m. Pacific time as KITS ran hours straight of nothing but commercials, hours of just commercials, after what was we're told was caused by a corrupted music database for the new format. When music returned a little after midnight, it was running an old log of Alt 105.3 from the spring of 2020. That programming would last until just before 10 a.m. the following morning as Dave FM returned with Tom Petty's Don't Do Me Like That. Fucking classic. I love it. I freaking love it. What a great song to come back on. And by the way, if you want more on that, check out Aaron Axelson, the former program director's Twitter, because he talks pretty openly about it. And he's been a staple and music director for that station for years and years and years, and brought so many bands to fruition and given them a platform and light through his subsonic sound check shows on the station, as well as, you know, just introducing new bands on the air. So yeah, good luck to Dave and their non-existent crew, their playlist that's going to just be rolling, and who knows, no one's manning it, you know. Good luck to them in the future, because, you know, I don't listen to a lot of radio. Once in a while I'll turn it on in the car when I can't think of what to listen to with the kids or something. I'm driving somewhere and I want something, you know, that they can listen to. But this is consistent proof that radio is a dying medium and is not going to be around for that much longer. And the fact that we don't have alternative radio in the Bay Area anymore is a travesty. So, okay. So next story up, Kanye West, his petition to legally change his name to Ye has been approved. So he's now simply going to be known as Ye. Can't call him Kanye West anymore. And that was approved by a Los Angeles court, according to TMZ. He was granted the name change, and he's no longer going to have a middle name, just YE. The Jesus Walks rapper spoke of the planned change during a radio interview in 2018, explaining, I believe Ye is the most commonly used word in the Bible. And the Bible, it means you. So I'm you, I'm us, it's us. West went on to say that the name went from Kanye, which means the only one, to just Ye, just being a reflection of our good, our bad, our confused, everything. And back in 2019, he considered changing his name to Christian genius billionaire Kanye West, but didn't follow through with that idea. That's too bad. That one would have stuck. This, of course, all comes after his long teased album Donda. It received a 3-star review by NME, who said the rapper's 10th album follows an odyssey of delays and bizarre, not quite released parties. The result merely punctuated with moments of brilliance. That happened. That's the Kanye story, or the Ye story, whichever way you're looking at it. Okay, so this was a cool story. The stories are getting more positive here as we go on, in case you're not, keeping track. But this was really cool. I saw this earlier today. A street musician playing a John Legend song was surprised to see him in the audience. What are the odds that John Legend is in town, in the area you're performing, and you're singing his songs, said Radha Rao. A street musician was performing a rendition of John Legend's hit "All of Me" in Boston over the weekend, and she had one particularly appreciative audience member, John Legend himself. He was visiting Fillmore Hall with his family before his show Sunday night in Boston when he came across Radha Rao performing the hit song, the Boston Globe reported. He was impressed. He gave Rao a hug and a tip. Rao, 22, didn't recognize him at first. He was wearing a mask and she didn't even know he was in town. Then he took it off. She admitted to being nervous, but finished the song, a regular part of her 2-hour set that she does there, where she had been performing since August. A lot of people tend to ask, did you play it because he was there? And the answer is no. I was playing it and he happened to appear after I started the song, so it was quite a shocking experience. So pretty cool to meet someone whose work you're a fan of, just as they stumble up while you're paying tribute to them in front of an audience. I dig it. All right, let's do one or two more stories here. And see what we got. You know what? Let's just close it out with a Dave Grohl story. I finished reading his memoir. Oh, why am I blanking on it? We'll get it here in just a minute. But he put out his new memoir, and he reveals that his father didn't approve of him joining a rock band. He said, I think my father just imagined I would take the conventional route through life, where I would go 4 years through high school, 4 years through college, getting a job, having a wife, having some children, he wrote in his new memoir. And he's revealed that his father didn't approve of him joining the band, and a rift formed between the pair. He said, my mother was always very supportive and encouraged me to follow my own path. My father was a conservative Republican speechwriter, so I don't know that he understood a child like mine's mind. His father, James Harper Grohl, was a journalist and political consultant who had clear expectations for the life his son would lead. Grohl wrote, I think my father just, we already covered that. But I don't know if I ever considered that even when I was young. So I don't think I ever considered the conventional route. The Storyteller is the name of Dave Grohl's memoir. I recommend checking it out. It's solid. He's got a lot of great stories in The Storyteller that are really enjoyable. And we actually talked about it in my interview with Carmine just a bit. I think Carmine and I might have different opinions on Dave Grohl and his drumming abilities. Carmine being a long time rock drummer as well. So that is interesting. The star, Dave Grohl, said that he didn't really need his approval to travel the world playing music, but won his father's respect as his career advanced. He wrote, I remember him coming to see us play at a punk rock club in Washington, D.C., and I think it was then that he recognized I was actually pretty good at what I did as a drummer. He could appreciate a musician's craft. Even though we were playing this loud, fast, noisy, dissonant punk rock, I think that he could see that I wasn't bad at what I did. And his father was relieved when Nirvana found commercial success. And he understood, he as a father now understands why his father was concerned. So good stuff. Really good memoir. Check it out. Also, I'll give another plug. Andrew McMahon's memoir is coming out just next week, actually. It's called Three Pianos. And I look forward to checking that out. I'm sure it'll be great as well. So get your copy for that as well. All right. That is our show for today. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you to Carmine for being on the program again. Next week on the program, we have a musician named Steve Conte. I look forward to chatting with him and talking about his storied career with the New York Dolls and Michael Monroe and so many other stories that he has. So for all of us here at Concert Pipeline, I'm Steve Jones. I'll catch you next time.